From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the professor, Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, today we've got a beautiful story of success via trials and tribulations. On the podcast today, we have Miss Grace, the graceful Miss Grace Vandercruze, founder and principal of Grace Global Capital. Now, while she focuses on large firm mergers and acquisitions, boy, her personal story is a doozy. Grace, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Matt. Great to be here.
So the three of us have something in common. We are native New Yorkers.
Mm-hmm.
Grace, tell us, how did you get into the world of highfalutin mergers and acquisitions, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us.
Sure. My path is nothing of the ordinary. It is quite amazing. I'm second oldest of seven. And but even before I start talking about diving in deep into my story, you know, there's a Nigerian proverb, and it says, wherever the stream flows, it never forgets its source. And my source of strength and tenacity is from my grandmother, my late grandmother. She had 9 children, and yet she and my granddad had room in their hearts to adopt 5 young sisters who lost their moms. And she raised 14 children. As a result, I'm one of 52 grandchildren, 52. But as we're in this small circle today, I can assure you that I was her favorite.
Obviously.
I knew I was her favorite because she would look me in the eye as a child, and she would say, Grace, you have lengthened my years and you have blessed my eyesight. But her most treasured words to me were, believe beyond your limits. As a child, I didn't know what that meant, but as I look at the arc of my life, that theme has permeated everything I do. Believe beyond your limits. So a bit more about my journey. I'm second oldest of 7 children. My parents and the entire family immigrated from South America to New York City when I was 14 years old. We settled in Brooklyn. They had the eye and the American dream, as you can imagine, with a focus on education. Fast forward, I had a great experience in high school, went on to college at Pace University, and between my second and third year, on a beautiful summer's day, I was commuting back and forth to school. I came home only to discover that the small brownstone we shared was up in flames. And you can imagine the noise, the smell, the chaos that I encountered with all that was going on, and a home just being demolished in flames. My mom, who was standing outside that brownstone with some of my siblings who had started to come home from school, it was around 4 in the afternoon. She was as calm as she can be. And everyone came to console us or to see how they can help. But amidst that, the ashes, my dad's determination emerged, and he was determined to keep us together as a family unit in that process. And so, you know, we were offered 2 can go here and 3 can go there. And he said, no way. He reminded us that he was orphaned when he was 8 years old and was separated from his 2 brothers. And that was the saddest day of his life. So the only place available for us was a New York City homeless shelter. And I will never forget the day, because that day was traumatic and transformative. My mom had me go back into that brownstone to retrieve whatever I can get. And what was shocking to me was that I could retrieve very, very little. What wasn't burnt, was destroyed by fire, was just total wreck. But I did assemble a few precious memories in a garbage bag, a 13-gallon garbage bag.
Now, Grace, at this time, you're what, 19, 20 years old?
Yes, I'm approximately 19. And I remembered holding that 13-gallon trash bag with more room to spare than I had occupied. And so here we are with what was the American dream that they looked like the American nightmare. And there we are in that homeless shelter. But that is where my grandmother's words become ever so real to me, because she believed that when you plan your goals and your dreams, you should never base it on your circumstances. That your circumstances might be super limiting to you, and your purpose in life is way beyond the confinements of your current circumstances, that your mission in life is much greater than those around you may perceive. But if you have goals embedded in you and you are determined to fulfill them in spite of detours, in spite of tragedies, it's the time to really step up. It's the time to be even more resolved in moving forward. So
Grace, it looked like at that point, your life rubber band was pulled back as much as it possibly could. And you had two choices. You were either going to snap it, or you're going to use that as a slingshot to propel yourself forward.
Yes.
So what came next?
So what came next was, number one, my resolve that I don't belong here. I understand we have to be in this shelter, but this shelter will not define me. So my next was to go to my school and request that I take the maximum amount of credits, which was 18 at the time. I had a part-time job at the university. So I wanted to spend most of my time in a world where I felt would propel me to my next. The shelter was just a stepping stone. It was a temporary place, but I wanted to surround myself in what can really propel me to next. So that was definitely my education. It was definitely my schooling. And even some of my classes that I took was super inspirational. I took this one poetry class, and I kept repeating the poet over and over and over again. And I'll never forget it. It's by Maya Angelou, "And Still I Rise." And still I rise. And she just ended and she says, and I rise, and I rise, and I rise. And I remember taking the train from City Hall to Saratoga Avenue, the Utica train line, and I was repeating in my head, "I shall rise, I shall."
Now, Grace, just for context, what year is this?
So this is in 1989.
So you also got inspiration by the great Mayor Ed Koch and all his pearls of wisdom right across the street from Pace, right?
Exactly. I love the way he would say, "How am I doing?" You talk about a mayor that really looked for feedback. It's not.
He used to ride the subway, for God's sakes.
I know he was afraid of New York booing or cheering, but he would take the feedback and use it. I hope our current mayor is listening. So anyhow.
Well, where our current mayor isn't is the subway.
Yes. Maybe then we'll deal with the rat population. But
so now all of a sudden you find yourself in the confines of lovely Pennsylvania at Wharton.
Yes. So I knew that after my undergrad degree, I had a position at EY. I was working in auditing, and the work after a while became monotonous. And I had a career, but there was some stirring in me that I wanted more of a challenge. And I wanted, the one thing with accounting is that everything is historic. You're auditing historical numbers, whereas if you're working in investment banking, it's very forward-looking. And so knowing that I would have a chance to really sit in and help the company in its driver's seat, but needing additional education in order to do so, I was elated to get accepted into the Wharton School and had a terrific 2 years. And from there went right into Wall Street, and that began a Wall Street career that lasted for about 20 years.
So you then chose to work at the elite white shoe firms, right? You went from Ernst Young to Merrill. You focused on the insurance industry.
Yes.
What was the brainchild behind Grace Global Capital? What gave you the impetus to say, you know what, I can do this myself?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that question, because starting Grace Global Capital and being an entrepreneur, it's the single most courageous thing I've ever done in my life. And I was working at a very large global organization on Wall Street. And I was promoted as a managing director, and I reached the pinnacle of my career. I was the first woman in my group to be promoted, the first African Americans, and I broke a lot of barriers. But a couple of things hit me. One was I felt very lonely and isolated. And I had learned how to be the only a lot of time in the room. But it's very difficult when you're going to work every single day, you're charging ahead and giving it your all, and you go in the office one morning and the company says, we have decided to change our strategic direction, and your group is no longer part of the future. So in the last 3 years of me serving as a managing director at a Wall Street firm, we were sold 4 times. So I had 4 distinct times of thinking, what am I going to do about this? And it's interesting, my initial instincts were to call all my clients and say, look, we're still focused on client service. We're still doing, you're still number one. But then when clients are calling me saying, hey, Grace, are you okay? We just heard there's several layoffs. And I'm like, I'm still here. Yes, I was still here. I was still standing, but amidst a lot of uncertainty where I was not directing the future of my career.
But Grace, I would imagine that a lot of that was the contraction of the post.com bubble, as well as the mid-2000s recession. So you just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, like all of us. So you were. Yes. It wasn't your doing. It was just a victim of
oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm sitting here and I'm getting goosebumps right now because I feel like you're telling my story to me. It's very similar.
Absolutely. And as I was thinking about, do I want to make that move? Do I want to make that jump? One of the things that 2 things propelled me. Number one, I had just completed 2 mountain climbing trips and had pushed my body beyond what I thought was physically possible, mentally possible. I had done one of an incredible, unimaginable feat. And it took, every step took a lot of courage. Every step reminded me that I had the inner strength to make that move and to go forward. So interestingly, that a physical activity helped build my mental mindset, but it really did. So I had that in me. And then secondly, I thought of this and I said, look, every day I came into this Wall Street firm, I had a balance sheet I was responsible for, and I walked into that global firm as an entrepreneur, doing exactly what I need to do to meet all and exceed all of my goals. Why don't I do that for me? Why don't I do that where I just can focus on me? I'm not distracted about politics. I'm not distracted with what happens tomorrow. I'm not going home at night, just spending half of the night thinking about how to navigate tomorrow and whatever a political maze I may feel. And all I can do is go ahead, start a firm, but focus directly on client and client service and not be distracted. And so I honor the day and I honor my past self for making that step, because I have never looked back, and I've never been so more fulfilled than I am today working as an entrepreneur.
Grace, let's dive in there for a second though, because the same thing that happened to you actually happened to me. I was at 6 different firms in 2 years because people were getting bought out, right? And every time when they got bought out, my clients needed to fill out new paperwork, right?
Yes.
And sometimes you just lose them through attrition, right? It's nobody did anything wrong, and it's just, hey, I can't have this another firm bought out. We just can't do it.
Mhm.
But so we decided that, and there was 4 of us. We decided we're going to go out and we're going to, buy a nickel BD, they called it, and turn it into a full-fledged investment bank.
Mhm.
What we realized pretty quickly was, at first it was really exciting, but then we realized we didn't have that framework of having the large banks' resources behind us. So things got a little crazy, right? They got a little frustrating at first. When did that happen for you? What was the first obstacle that you hit?
So
in your firm?
interesting. My path was a little different, because what I did was, when I started my firm, I stripped away all of the capital intensive, regulatory intensive work that I did, mainly raising capital for companies, because that would mean I'd registered as a broker dealer. That means I'd have to, put a lot of into infrastructure and administration and so forth. What I did was I left that behind, and I wanted to focus on advisory. So it's more of a consulting advisory, where the level of capital needed was not great at all. I needed a website, an office, and so forth, but didn't need as much overhead and regulatory oversight as the broker dealer would need. So that's number one. Number two, because I had called all of my clients prior to moving, and said, they were well aware of what was going on. And I said, I'm thinking of starting my own boutique firm. Would you be interested in supporting me? And 100% of them said yes. They sort of all knew that I had this firm. And I have never spent a single dime on advertising, because my business, the biggest currency I have is trust. And because I have worked on $25 billion of transaction, I have built up a great deal of credibility and trust in the industry. And relationships, are so important to me. And I've had clients that refer clients to me. I have clients that wrote in LinkedIn about me and my work. I know that I'm unique in the industry. I know there's no one that looks like me in the industry. There's no one with the level of skill set. And it's not only the skill set, but I come from a point of view where I've advised insurance regulators, I've advised insurance companies, and I also sit on insurance boards. So I believe I bring a 360-degree perspective. So my ability to really demonstrate my competitive advantage, even in the face of Goldman or some of the blue chip companies, as well as some of the smaller companies, I focus on what I bring to the table that no one else can.
I love it. Grace, let's talk about your book. We usually don't let people talk about their books, but I think you earned it.
So being an African-American working on Wall Street, I get calls all the time. Can you speak to high school about not only your work and your journey, but financial wellness? Can you speak to our community groups? Can you speak to the women's groups? So I get lots and lots of requests. And what I've learned is that there is nothing more to get an audience excited than to talk to them about what's in their purses and their wallets, and how we can go about managing this and really bring a level of dialogue that they have not grown up speaking about. Many people look at Wall Street as this mysterious, archaic, the babbling talking heads on CNBC can never relate to Main Street. However, I can. I'm in Main Street. I live in Main Street. I come from Main Street. You know, my last name could have been blood, sweat, and tears, because that's what built me as a person, and it's built my career. So that relates to everyone. So one of the things I'm very open about is sharing my journey and sharing my story, because I firmly believe our paths and our success can lead guide for people coming behind us. And people are looking for guidance. They're looking for this sort of, tell me how I can take what I have, whether it's belittle or not. I can take what I have and build wealth in a way that's safe, in a way that's not a get rich quick scheme, but more importantly, in the process, I can learn what a stock is. I can learn what a bond is. I can learn what a mutual fund is. What does that mean for me? How does it apply to me? So I always think of talking about financial terms that honors my grandmother in a way that if she was sitting in the audience, she would understand what I'm saying. It would make sense to her.
Grace, your past is extremely unique, and we live in an existence in 2024 that I think is very different than it was in, let's say, the late 80s, early to mid 90s.
Yes.
But when you used to walk into a conference room and there was that mysterious 800-pound gorilla in the room, which gorilla was more ferocious? Being a woman, being an African-American woman, or being an immigrant? Which was more difficult to tame?
Okay. So, I have the benefit of having the intersectionality of all three. And when you say the three gorillas in the room, I have to tell you that I could not ascend and be successful even in the rooms I'm in today. I'm sitting on 2 Blackstone portfolio companies. I could not be where I am today looking at those 3 aspects of my life as gorillas. I see those as golden opportunities for me.
Just give them a banana, right? That's it. Tame those gorillas.
I don't even see them as gorillas. I think what's wonderful in life is that everything, people look at you and they look at your handicaps and they look at, your deficiencies, are positive superpowers that you have, that if you use your handicaps as your superpower. And what I mean by that is, let's talk about being a woman. When I walk into a room dominated by men, or being the only woman in the room, there is a opportunity and a responsibility. So the opportunity is when you walk into a room, especially being a woman of my background, whether you like it or not, the atmosphere shifts even before you start to speak. You have to, and one of the things I realized, I'm not in any room by accident. I know what my educational background is. I know the pedigree of schools that I've attended. I know I'm probably one of the more educated person in that room. I'm probably one of the most qualified person in that room. But more importantly, I'm in that room based on what I can offer. So I say, seize the moment, use the opportunity to really steer the direction and add insightful thought into the discussion that can make a difference in the strategic direction of the room and the company. So I'm very collaborative by nature. I'm very diplomatic. I love people. I love to foster relationships. So for me, being in the room is like putting a fish in a pond, because that's the environment in which I'm going to thrive. And because I don't focus, I'm not self-conscious about I'm a woman or I'm the only this or the only that. What drives me is what value can I add to the discussion to make a difference.
Grace, God bless you. I just recorded that last 60 seconds, and I'm going to play that back every time I hear a boo-hoo pity party. God bless you.
I absolutely love it, because your confidence is amazing, number one, where most people walk in and they have some type of self-doubt or imposter syndrome. but you believe in yourself so much, and it comes through in your words. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
but where's that confidence come from? That confidence comes
She knows she
from,
earned it. She earned everything that she
it came
has.
from hard work. There was nobody served her a silver platter. This is all merit.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to tell you, we're going to tie this into the mountain climbing. I have a beautiful friend who is very fit, and she decided to climb Kilimanjaro, and she trained very hard for it. And the night before the climb, she called me, and I'm like, Kathleen, you're doing so well. I'm congratulating you. You're going to have this amazing experience. And she said to me, Grace, am I crazy? Because what happened to the self-doubt, she's about to embark on a path where she's stepping outside of her comfort zone. And when you do that, doubt and fear will come along with you. My opinion about some imposter syndrome is allow that to be your companion. It's going to have a voice where you're saying, oh my goodness, am I ready? Am I prepared? Can I do this? It's a healthy voice. Just make sure that it's not the loudest voice you're hearing. The loudest voice I tell myself is, Grace, all your life has prepared you for this moment. Grace, you have been up all night studying this. You got this. Grace, you have done so many transactions. This is your expertise. This is your dream. This is what you live for. Go ahead and do it with confidence. Do it well. Do it with a sense of excellence. Make sure that excellency is part of your DNA. And if you slip, it's a learning experience. If you're human. If you slip, it's a learning experience. And in the process, have fun. In the process, build relationships. So really, I think we have to turn down the volume of the negative thoughts in our mind. Because if we're human, doesn't matter who we are, a white male, a black female, everyone has negative thoughts. Turn down the volume of that. And let's turn up the volume of the value addedness, the uniqueness, the competitive advantages we're bringing to the table. And let's see if me and the colleague across the street, across the boardroom, regardless of how he or she may look or the skill sets they may bring, there's a level of collaboration that may occur once you start to speak up and bring your best self to the table.
Grace, you've had academic success, you've had professional success, you've written, you've sailed, you've climbed, you've given back to the community. You're still a young person. What's next?
More.
More abundance. I love it.
Oh gosh, there's more. Okay, so look, I've lived many lives because I knew that I had to evolve as a person. Even when I was working out of undergrad as an accountant, someone might have looked at me and said, oh, you're so successful. But I knew that there was more within me. I knew there were more challenges to accomplish. So, and battles to fight. I've had the situation where I had to walk away from a toxic marriage and just put that aside and to rebuild my life, rebuild, restore. And I'm so glad I did. Every day I did that was a celebration. I was living my best single life before I met the best possible husband for me. I'm now in a very happy marriage. So it's been, it's the ability to say what's next, knowing that the next version of yourself exists. And it's not about standing still. It's about moving forward to say there's more that life offers. So I'm definitely in the legacy building stage of my life. I've got, my needs, my basic needs are met. But for me, I measure my life and I measure the success in how much I can give back, how much I can in terms of, I'm very big on education and leaving scholarships for the underserved and in educating the masses on financial wellness and financial security. That's what I love to do.
If your grandma from Nigeria could see you now and she was here with us, what would she say to you?
Okay, well, wow. So my grandmother, she was from South America, and she was in Guyana, very small country. And so she had, it's almost as if she had prophesied my success before I even had a concept of me as a person. So she would say, Grace, you're so amazing. My mom used to say that she would look at me like the sun set on my face. And so there are many people in our lives that see our potential way before we're able to. And my goal is to honor her legacy. My goal is to honor her. I put my grandmother's picture as a first slide that I would give to clients, that I would give to my high school student presentation, because I want to honor her indomitable spirit, because life is a series of falls and detours, but it's how many times we get up back. And I just want to get up back one more time than I fell. And that one more time and giving me the extra strength is what propels me every day.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Wow. Hey, Grace, we want to be respectful of your time. We really appreciate you being here. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you and where they can find your book?
Absolutely. So my book, Homeless to Millionaire, is on Amazon, and you can find it there. There's over 150 resources, financial resources on building wealth. In addition, my business website is Grace Global Capital, and I have master classes on building wealth personally, and those classes can be found on financialabundancewithgrace.com.
Grace, thank you so much for being here. You know, I have one last question before I let you run. So you already climbed Kilimanjaro, Everest Base Camp twice, you're sailing. What's the next adventure?
Yes. So I had Mount Vincent is in Antarctica, and I was set ready and to go to Mount Vincent, and that trip got canceled twice because of COVID and the aftermath of COVID. But yes, there is another mountain, and it's probably Mount Vincent in my horizon. That's my next mountain to climb.
I got to start catching up to you. I just got to do Kilimanjaro first.
Okay, well, Kilimanjaro, by the way, is if you're looking to start out to climb a mountain, let it be Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro, and I've climbed enough mountain peaks to say this, is the best mountain possible to climb. I would do Kilimanjaro a second time if it comes up and if I do have the time. Why? Because you start out in a tropical rainforest, then you rise higher to African plains, and then you rise higher to glacier territory. It is moving, it is spiritual, it's a spiritual journey. And as you're climbing the mountain, I always feel the biggest mountain you climb is the mountain within. Why? Because that's where the self-doubt occurs. If you can overcome by each step, telling yourself, I've got this, I can do this, I have inner strength I never realized I had. Use the last step to propel you to your next step, because Kilimanjaro is a grueling climb. There are many climbers that come and they turn back. But if you focus on the fact, your inner strength, you'll be able to climb that mountain.
Grace, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, that's a wrap. The Liquid Lunch Project.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of The Liquid Lunch Project.